Good evening. It is 6:00 p.m. on Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. There, the bells are still ringing there. I'd like to call the meeting of the Peoria City Council to order. I'd also like to welcome everyone in our City Council chambers, as well as Brady Johnson and our listening audience at WCBU. I'd also like to welcome the audience watching by cable, Channel 22. We have several council members that are participating by phone tonight. 3 council members that will participate by telephone. Madam Clerk? So mics are open. Can you please call the roll?
Yes. And council member Jensen won't be participating.
Oh, she won't. Okay.
That's exact.
Okay. So we have 2 council members that are participating by phone. Council
Yes.
members Regal and Council member Euler.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Ali,
Present.
council member Allen,
Present.
council member Sear,
Here.
council member Greb,
Here.
council member Jackson,
Here.
council member Jensen, council member Kelly,
Here.
member Euler,
Here.
council member Riggenbach,
Here.
council member Rick-Rigo,
Present.
and council member Velpula.
Present.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum present.
Thank you. Please join me, everyone, and stand for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk?
We are at proclamations.
Okay. We have 3 proclamations today. And the first is Great Neighbor Appreciation Week. We have Director of Community Development Joe Doolin and Neighborhood Enhancement Coordinator Kaylee Dre with us. Whereas the City of Peoria Community Development Department aims to create a safer, cleaner, and more connected Peoria, and whereas neighborhoods play an integral part of maintaining and promoting a high quality of life in the City of Peoria, and whereas in a world where technology and our ability to travel across great distances has caused a loosening in the bonds of our community, it is the utmost importance to honor our neighbors and community members who go above and beyond to forge a sense of community in an increasingly polarized world. And whereas the City of Peoria Community Development is hosting the 7th annual Great Neighbor Appreciation Week with a celebration to encourage community members to reach out to their neighbors, to create new friends, and to express gratitude to those who make our neighborhoods and our city a great place to live. And whereas Great Neighbor Appreciation Week provides Peoria residents with opportunities to show their appreciation for their neighbors and to be reminded of what it means to be a great neighbor. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby acknowledge the week of July 18th through July 23rd to be Great Neighbor Appreciation Week in Peoria, Illinois. Director?
Thank you, Mayor Ali. On behalf of the entire Community Development Department, thank you for this proclamation. I think it's hard to believe it's been 7 years since we've been doing this program, but when we first created it 7 years ago, the thought process was, we spend a lot of time, unfortunately, at staff and at the code enforcement world telling people when they're doing things wrong or what they need to do to fix. And we take for granted all of those residents and neighborhoods in our community that follow the rules, participate in their neighborhood associations, be good citizens, people who are just kind to each other. We take for granted how many of those people actually exist in our community. So when we created it 7 years ago, it was just an opportunity for our department to say thank you. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for making this a great place to live. My staff is very dedicated and committed to public service, and we appreciate the people that serve us. So it's a week long of just time for staff to get out, say thank you to residents, and just honor them for all they do to make our city great. With that, I do want to hand it over to Kaylee, who's going to talk a little bit about what we have planned for the week.
Director Doolin. So for this week, we have several events. We have one big opportunity for the public to get involved on this week of appreciation. That's our citywide community development cleanup event. It will be going on from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Saturday, July 16th, and this will kick off our week. We'll have 5 different cleanup locations. The first will be at Martin Luther King Jr. Park at 825 West McBean. The second will be at Morton Square Park at 901 Northeast Monroe Street. The third will be at the East Bluff Community Center. We'll have an additional location at the McClure Library. And then we'll also have a location on West Main Street at the city parking lot near Habitat for Humanity Restore. Then on Monday, staff gets to work showing our appreciation for everyone in our community who does so much work to make Peoria the great city that it is. So Monday, July 18th is Nonprofit Appreciation Day, where we will be going around to several of our nonprofit partners just to say thank you. We respect and appreciate all that you do to contribute to our community. On Tuesday, July 19th, we'll be sending staff out specifically to look at and appreciate the properties and the property owners who are going above and beyond to maintain their property across the city for Code Encouragement Day. On Wednesday, July 20th, we'll be turning our attention to our local businesses. They do a lot. They've been through a lot, especially the last 2 years of COVID-19. So we really just want to show our appreciation for everything that they do to make our community vibrant. Then on Thursday, we'll actually be hosting a downtown cleanup. City Hall being located downtown, it's a great opportunity for our staff to turn our attention to where we come to work every day to make sure it's clean, bright. We'll be reaching out to both OSF Healthcare, Ameren, Illinois, and several other downtown employers to get them in on the action as well. So we'll be hosting a cleanup where staff will have garbage bags and gloves available for any volunteers who are willing to help us out from 11:30 to 1 on July 21st. Then we'll round out the week with one more round of appreciation in our neighborhoods, just recognizing those property owners who are going above and beyond.
For any residents who are interested in participating in any of the events or want more information, they can go to our website, appreciatepeoria.com. Also, they can go to the City of Peoria Facebook page. Stacy Peterson does a fantastic job of working with us and collaborating and getting all the information out. I'm sure she'll be very mad I mentioned her to appreciate her, but our department greatly appreciates all the work she does behind the scenes. So go to the City of Peoria's Facebook page or appreciatepeoria.com. And you can see what we've been up to all week, and also just go out and be a good neighbor. I think that's what our city really needs, is people getting along, being kind, and working well together. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Director Doolin and Kaylee, for all the work that you put in planning these events. We encourage everyone to participate in these events next week. And, the little things, they seem like little things, but to many, they're a big deal. These certificates that are given to people at their homes for a nice-looking yard, I know my mother tells me all the time. She's gotten those certificates almost every year. But it's a big deal to people to receive those acknowledgments that, they're keeping their yard up and contributing to the neighborhood. So thank you. Our next proclamation is recognizing our Heart of Illinois Fair. And we have Erica Abendroth. She's a board member for the Heart of Illinois Fair. Hi, Erica. Thank you for being here. Whereas tonight we acknowledge the Heart of Illinois HOI Fair, a Central Illinois tradition that began in 1949. And whereas the HOI Fair is scheduled for July 19th through July 23rd at Exposition Gardens and continues to be a draw for residents and visitors. Event information may be found at the Heart of Illinois Fair website, heartofillinoisfair.com. And whereas this year's fair will feature Aussie Kingdom, the Rockin' Circus, the Show Me Pig races and safari, and wine tastings. The Miss Heart of Illinois Fair pageant will also return this year. The HOI Fair is excited to set the stage for talent ranging from music to comedy to theater to magic and more. And whereas with tractor pulls, a demolition derby, carnival rides, live entertainment, food, and competitive events and livestock shows that showcase the talents of our friends and neighbors, the HOI Fair has something for everybody. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby encourage visitors and residents to attend the Heart of Illinois Fair in Peoria, Illinois. Thank you.
As you all know, Roxy Baker also sits on our board, and she is the spokesperson for the fair. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here and kind of threw me in at the last minute. So I'm sure I will not be as entertaining as she would be in a speech, but definitely want to say thank you to Mayor Ali, to the entire City Council for your support. This is our 73rd year, and it means a lot to me. I have a very long history with the fair. My grandmother was Eileen Fry, who was the general manager there for a very long time. And it's one of the things that I have grown up with, and I know many in our community have grown up with and look forward to every year. We do have quite a few new events coming. We're trying to strive harder and harder to engage more and more of our community each and every year, trying to focus on bringing kind of an agricultural message back to our local communities and having those competitive livestock events every day where, you know, you have the kids that grow up on a farm that get to talk to kids that have never stood next to an animal before, a cow or a pig, and get to see and engage with them and talk to them about how things are so different in such a tight-knit community. But you know, it's really neat to see that education happening on a regular basis, and of course, so many entertainment acts to engage everybody else on a regular basis. So we couldn't do this without our amazing sponsors, the support of our community, and our volunteers, our staff, and we're just looking forward to hopefully a very good weather next week and a great fair. So thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you, Erica. Our third and final proclamation for the night was nominated by Councilman Velpula, and I'll have him speak after we hear from the representatives. It is Glioblastoma Awareness Day. And we have Dr. Gouda from the University of Illinois College of Medicine at Peoria, and Mark Alec. He's with the Mark Linder Walk for the Mind. Whereas glioblastoma is an aggressive, cancerous, and deadly form of malignant brain tumor that can have devastating effects on cognition, mood, behavior, and quality of life in affected individuals. Whereas glioblastoma is the most common form of malignant brain and central nervous system tumors, accounting for nearly half of all primary malignant brain tumors. Whereas every year, approximately 13,000 Americans are diagnosed with glioblastoma, and it is estimated that 10,000 Americans pass away from the disease annually. And whereas while treatments for glioblastoma exist, they are often harsh and expensive, and the 5-year survival rate remains around only 7%. And whereas raising awareness of glioblastoma will enable affected individuals and their families to make more informed medical decisions and will guide the medical community toward a better understanding of glioblastoma to further mitigate this rare disease. And whereas patients and families in Peoria and regionally benefit from the advocacy, care, and collaboration of numerous providers and organizations, including but not limited to the University of Illinois College of Medicine, Peoria, which is home to the Sun Velpula Lab focused on these are some big words, neuro-oncology research. The Illinois Neurological Institute, Mark Linder Walk for the Mind, the KB Strong Foundation, and others. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby acknowledge Glioblastoma Awareness Day in Peoria, Illinois. Dr. Gouda and Mr. Alec, thank you for being here.
Thank you. So just a little bit of a message. You know, when you look at Glioblastoma Awareness Day, this really started with the loss of Senator Kennedy and Senator McCain. You're sad for their losses, but it brings awareness. And Dr. Velpula, thank you for bringing us awareness. My team member here, she lost her husband to glioblastoma, and there's a lot more out there. I was actually surprised today when Dr. Velpula handed this to me. And Mayor Ali, I can't read a lot of these words either because they're pretty big. But what it is, it shows the work and the effort by many of the team members and organizations that you read off. There's hope. And part of the Mark Linder Walk for the Mind is, the theme is sharing hope. Truly, glioblastoma, it's a death sentence. And we want to change that. And there's a lot of people in the community who are affected, impacted, and have dealt with this. And it's not a good situation. You know, I am a team member of the Mark Linder Walk for the Mind, and, you know, I'm here to talk and represent that organization and what we do to try to help Dr. Velpula, Dr. Sung. We call them basically our rock stars. And nothing short of that. You know, Mark Linder, 20 years ago, was diagnosed with brain tumors, and he felt he was alone. He didn't have anybody out there that shared the same thing that he had, and he wanted to create an environment, an event, an organization that brought awareness, and that was his three triggers. Was I want to raise awareness, I want to bring people together so they can share the common bond, and I want to be able to raise funds for brain tumor research. Our organization is 20th year this year. We're proud to celebrate that, and it's going to be on September 24th down at the Riverplex. We've raised over $1 million for brain tumor research, and I feel we're just getting started. But you know, the sad thing is there's so many people out there that we have not reached, and we need to get out to let the message know that there are people out there that share that same bond, that same issue. And I guess the first thing I'd ask the council members, does anybody know about our organization? Does anybody know anybody that's ever had a brain tumor or brain cancer? Once you start asking that question, you may be surprised how many people you actually know. And that's really that's the kicker we want to do there. You know, 3 years ago before COVID, we had about 1,200 people at our event, and I thought we were doing pretty good until I realized we were missing a lot of people. In 2010, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Fortunately, it was a very common and good one to have. My life went on as usual. I joined the organization. I'm doing whatever I can. 8 years later, I was re-diagnosed with a brain tumor. The scary thing for me was when Dr. Sung said between 2010 and 2018, I've done 3,000 brain surgeries in Peoria. So we've done good, but we've missed a lot of people. Since then, his number is up to 10,000 surgeries. So we've got to get the message out of who we are, what we're about, how we can raise money for awareness, how we can raise money to help people out, how we can raise money to cure this disease. And hopefully we can keep on doing that. Again, the Mark Linder Walk for the Mind is a nonprofit organization here in Central Illinois. I believe each one of you have a flyer. I welcome you to join our event on September 24th at the Riverplex. Again, everything that we have goes right to the University of Illinois College of Medicine, and it makes me feel good that we're doing a lot of the right things, or we're providing a lot of the right things. You know, and I want to give a shout out to KB Strong, another organization that gives a lot to the University of Illinois College of Medicine, and we want to continue to do that. This community is a very generous community, but we want to reach out to all those people who have been impacted, affected, and need the help, need the guidance. The one thing I will say about our event, I laugh because I talk about Dr. Andrew Sung as being the rock star. We can't get our event started because everybody wants to talk to him. He's that good. But one of the most important things is when I see people who have been impacted and affected by brain tumors and brain cancer, and they just don't know how to deal with it. And when they're at our event, you can see the weight getting lifted off of their shoulders. And it's just it's that bond that we all share, that we're all on this together. And I just hope that the city council, the city of Peoria, understands this better and what we can all do more to join the fight against not only glioblastoma, but any type of brain cancer or brain tumors. So thank you for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Guda. You keep spreading the word, and we're going to do everything that we can to try to help that message get out. Councilman Velpula?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to say that, glioblastoma is the most deadliest disease. Once the patient gets infected with the disease, the survival rate is 12 months, regardless of what you can do. And I have to say something about Peoria. Peoria is one of the very few cities that I have been, which supports every philanthropy. And then the research conductor on brain cancer in Peoria is regarded as the best in down South Illinois, and it is only possible because of the community partnerships. And Mark Linda Walk for the Mind, even though it's a small organization, it raised $1 million for research, and now we are being helped by other entities like KB Strong. But it's very hard, and given the scarcity of funding, better. Community steps up to help, and we have other programs for Alzheimer's as well. So the beauty of Peoria, I would say, is they wanted to give out, they wanted to help. So thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your work as well, Dr. Velpula. Madam Clerk?
We are at approval of the minutes.
Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the City Council meeting held on June 28th, 2022, as printed.
Seconded by Councilman Seer. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Euler?
Aye.
Councilmember Rodrigo?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We have one town item, 22-241, a request from the town officials to approve the June 22 actual expenditures and to approve the July 2022 anticipated expenditures for the town of the City of Peoria.
Can I get a motion to approve? Moved by Councilmember Allen, seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Graham?
No, I just wanted to.
Okay. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Euler?
Aye.
Councilmember Rodrigo?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at consent agenda items. Item number 22-242, a communication with the request to approve the declaration of local state of emergency. 22-243, a communication with the request to hold a policy session on the violence reduction funding on July 19, 2022 at 6 p.m. to be held at City Hall, Council Chambers. 22-244, a communication with the request to approve a workers' compensation settlement in the amount of $105,765.98 and a release of employment claims between the City of Peoria and a police officer injured on February 11, 2020. 22-245, a communication with the request to approve the purchase of fire apparatus from Pierce McQueen for an amount not to exceed $3,200,000. 22-246, a communication with the request to accept the low bid of R.A. Cullen and Son in the amount of $1,131,931 and award a construction contract for the Prospect Road Mill and Overlay Project with an additional authorization of $113,069 for contingencies for a total award of $1,245,000. 22-247, a communication with a request to approve a professional services agreement with Midwest Engineering and Associates for an amount not to exceed $49,470 for the Native Planting City Facilities Project. 22-248, a communication with a request to approve a 10-year agreement with Exposition Gardens to rent a building to conduct a yearly candidate physical ability test training at a cost of $1,500 per year from 2022 through 2026 and $2,000 per year from 2027 through 2031. 22-249, a communication approved the addition of 7 temporary maintenance workers, with 4 hired in July 2022 for an annual crack seal program and 3 hired in October 2022 for the annual winter maintenance program to allow for the increased number of snow routes to 21. And B, adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2022-2023 biannual budget related to the use of general fund balance for the 7 additional staff in the Public Works Department in the amount of $200,000 in 2022 and $125,000 in 2023. 22-250, an appointment and a reappointment by Mayor Ali to the Sister City Commission with the request to concur, Patrick Rossler and Dr. Jones Sattler. 22-251, a reappointment by Mayor Ali to the Historic Preservation Commission with the request to concur for Michael Maloof. 22-252, appointments by Mayor Ali to the Springdale Cemetery Management Authority with a request to concur for Lisa Fisher and Zachary Euler. 22-253, a reappointment by Mayor Ali to the Advisory Committee on Police and Community Relations with the request to concur for Karen Wilson. 22-254, a communication with the request to receive and file the month ended by May 31st, 2022, unaudited financial report. That concludes the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any items to remove from consent? Councilmember Graham?
Madam Chair, 22-249.
Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Items 243, 245, and 248.
Thank you. Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 22-254, please.
Are there any more items to remove? If not, can I get a motion?
Madam Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Euler?
no need to pull it. Just note an abstention on 22-252 since I'm on it.
252. Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Ruckriegel, did you have any?
No, thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve consent without those items? Moved by Councilmember Riggenbach, seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Euler?
Aye.
Councilmember Ruckriegel?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
Item number 22-243, a communication with the request to hold a policy session on violence reduction funding on July 19, 2022 at 6 p.m. to be held at City Hall, Council Chambers.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say that we will be revisiting this very important topic. I think we'll go through all the steps for people's satisfaction, not only on the council but public. The manager and I have had a couple discussions on this. I'm looking forward to it. I just wanted to make a comment was all. So I will move to approve.
A second, seconded by Councilmember Velpula. Discussion? Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Euler?
Aye.
Councilmember Ruckriegel?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
Item number 22-245, a communication with the request to approve the purchase of a fire apparatus from Pierce McQueen for an amount not to exceed $3,200,000.
Councilmember Sear? Oh, I'm sorry. Who was that? I wrote Sear down.
Kelly.
Okay, that's you too, Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to have a brief presentation from the chief and or the manager on this. This is a little out of the ordinary, but it seems to me like it's a very good way to go. But again, a little out of the ordinary. So if I
Well, there you go. There's the chief.
could hear the chief. Thank you.
I'm sorry. What we were attempting to do with this is when I was assistant chief, I was tasked by Chief Bachman in regards to 5-year strategic planning. One of those includes fleet maintenance and fleet purchases. And in discussions in 2021, we were projecting 2022 and 2024. This purchase here is in line with our 2024 CIP purchase. The reason why I'm requesting that we make that purchase now is to control two things. We have escalating costs in trying to control those, and we have extended lead times. So previously, before COVID, if we were going to purchase an engine, lead times were anywhere from 6 to 7 months. If we were going to purchase an aerial truck, we were looking at 8 to 9 months. Now we're looking at anywhere from 26 to 27 months for the purchase of either. So right now we have two 2001 aerial trucks, and we have one 1994. So we're running into substantial costs in regards to repair and maintenance. So we're trying to forecast the future. Where we're at right now is requesting to make this 2024 purchase right now. And with that, as I presented this to the city manager and to the finance director, I also gave purchasing options. So it was a 100% prepay, a 50% prepay, and then paying upon delivery. So my request going through the city manager and the finance director was pay upon receipt. So this is not costing the city any money right now. It basically gets us in line so we can get this purchase stabilized in 2024.
Okay. You have any additional follow-up questions? There you go.
Thank you. Yes, I do. The chief and I have had a discussion on this, and first of all, I'd like to say that I'm very much in favor of what's being proposed, but I think there might be another option that we could explore, and that would be leasing equipment like this rather than purchasing. And I believe the chief can shed some light on that. And my thought is if we want to explore that, then I'll move for a deferral of this while the exploration takes place until the next meeting. But at this point, I'd like to ask the chief to talk about a lease option.
Yeah, after being in communication with all of the council, I was tasked by Councilman Kelly to explore this option, and working with Justin in purchasing and Director Craddy, we find like this is potentially not an option that's sustainable unless we want to get into long-term lease agreements for basically our whole fleet. Speaking with the city manager, we felt like this was not the best option for the city of Peoria and the community unless we wanted to get into lease agreements for basically the whole fleet as we start down this road. If you're going to get into this situation with your fire equipment, it's basically a 7-year lease agreement. And at that point, either you're going to walk away from that apparatus or you're going to have the option to purchase. So you're basically kicking the can down the road, and it's going to cost you more money in the long run, unless you're wanting to get into lease agreements over the long period of time. And I also would entertain Director Craddy, if you'd like to come up. I also know that I like to stay in my lane. I'm the interim fire chief, and I'm not the finance director. So.
Chief is right in what he's saying. Is obviously it would change how we traditionally have bought vehicles and equipment for the city. And normally when you're looking at leases, you also are looking at interest costs associated with those leases. So it would increase the long-term costs of those purchases. And so, traditionally we have gone more towards the pay-go model for equipment. So this would be that change.
Thank you. In light of those comments, Madam Mayor, I'd move for approval.
Seconded by Councilmember Riggenbach. Councilmember Jackson?
No, I didn't have a
okay.
comment.
Any other comments, discussion? Okay. Okay. Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Euler?
Aye.
Councilmember Rodrigo?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
Item number 22-248, a communication with the request to approve a 10-year agreement with Exposition Gardens to rent a building to conduct the yearly candidate physical ability test training at a cost of $1,500 per year, 2022 through 2026, and $2,000 per year from 2027 through 2031.
Councilman Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome.
I would just like an oral presentation. This sounded to me, as it was proposed to me, as a truly excellent example of flexibility, and I think the city is going to be very much advantaged in taking advantage of this. So, Chief, if you would explain the problems and then how they were solved.
Sure. I'll try to stay as short as humanly possible. This can potentially be a long story, but 2022 CIP purchase had a CPAT building. And if anybody doesn't know what CPAT is, that's a physical agility testing to come on to the job. City of Peoria has been a regional testing site for some time. And what we're challenged with is renting space on a yearly basis when we perform that testing. And over time, we spend a substantial amount of money to rent that space. So 2022 CIP had the construction of a CPAT building down at our training facility down on Galena Road. And what we ended up running into, the CIP line item was $625,000. So we got to work immediately working with Jason Meeks and the facility maintenance manager, and what we explored was it wasn't possible for us to build on a floodplain, working with the Corps of Engineers and the complexities that are involved in that. So we explored other options, and basically what we ran into was a great community partner in regards to Expo Gardens, and I'm most definitely giving you a Cliff Note version because I skipped many chapters how we got to this point. But what we're excited about is building or reestablishing this partnership with Expo Gardens. We know that this is a great opportunity for us to be right in the heart of the city of Peoria. The exposure is great. The partnership with Expo Gardens is great. And what I'm really proud about saying is the fire department tasking ourselves, trying to find what is the best option for us. And what we have is that we're going to save the city over $400,000 by bypassing on not building a CPAT building. But we're also going to get the much needed improvements down at our training facility that are needed. And we're going to be able to improve the space at Station 17 where we house other fire departments' firefighters. And so we're going to bring in revenue, we're going to bring in money to the city of Peoria and actually get what we need. But I would entertain Erica to come up and say a few words if she wanted to. No? Okay.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move for approval.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any other discussion? Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
Chief Solberg, I just want to say thank you for the a little bit out of the box thinking here and taking a situation that could have been frustrating and turning it into a win for all of us. I mean, renting the other building that you referenced for $9,000, and we're getting this for $1,500. And Ms. Abendroth, thank you for the cooperation from Expo in facilitating this. And it's exciting to see what we can do when we are willing to expand our horizon a little bit. So kudos to you and the staff to put this together.
Thank you. And I also would be remiss if I didn't mention the fire department command staff. We worked extremely hard. Myself, Chief Morgan, Chief Rice, Chief Tinley, we all kind of put everything on fast forward trying to figure these things out. So I don't want anybody to interpret that I'm standing up here like I was some lone soldier, and that's not the case. So we all worked extremely hard on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. If there's no more discussion, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Euler?
Aye.
Councilmember Ruckriegel?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
Item number 22-249, a communication with a request for the following. A, approve the addition of 7 temporary maintenance workers, with 4 hired in July 2022 for the annual crack seal program and 3 hired in October 2022 for the annual winter maintenance program to allow for increased number of snow routes to 21. And B, adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2022-2023 biannual budget related to the use of general fund balance for the 7 additional staff in the Public Works Department in the amount of $200,000 in 2022 and $125,000 in 2023.
Councilmember Graham?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Powers, I believe this isn't quite ready for prime time, but I'd like you to address it.
Yes, thank you, Counselor. Hope I can give you enough overview today that the request for deferral will make a lot more sense for this 2 weeks that we need to go back through this. This indeed is needed. This is about what we have not been able to do because of COVID, the budget impacts that we've had upon the department, the city, everyone. Basically, as was highlighted in the paper by Mr. Kravitz, recently did a really good job of highlighting exactly what this is about. We need to get material down and seals or crack sealed so that we don't have 18,000 potholes next spring. And that has not been able to occur for 3 years because of our current staffing level. Using temporary staff, we're limited to using those individual employees on a rolling basis for 1,000 hours. At the rate that we have for hours this year, all 22 of our temporary employees will reach 1,000 hours this fall going into winter operations, which means they have a choice to either participate in the state retirement plan, IMRF, but they have to make the full contribution, meaning what would normally be an employee contribution and the city's contribution, which we anticipate will cause the loss of a great number of those employees because of the impact upon their hourly salary. Therefore, we would like to have a couple of weeks to examine this proposal and likely be coming back to you to convert some of these positions to full-time equivalents rather than part-time, not all of them, but a blend or a different blend of full-time, taking our staff headcount up, hence alleviating the requirement to meet the 1,000-hour requirement, and then bringing this new staff on in a part-time role as we propose here, but again, resetting that calendar to 1,000 hours for the new hires. The blend is to be determined. That's what we need the 2 weeks for, sir. And I thank you for making this available.
Councilman?
Any questions you may have?
Thank you very much, Director. Clerk Bonds, that has a ring to it. What do we need? 2 motions here?
If you're just going to defer it together.
Okay,
You can do
we
one
can
motion.
defer both of them in one fell swoop. I move to defer both A and B.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Seer. Any other discussion? 2 weeks. Okay. Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Euler?
Aye.
Councilmember Recreago?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
Item number 22-254, a communication with the request to receive and file the month ended May 31st, 2022, unaudited financial report.
There's one prior to that, which is 22-252, that there's an abstention
Yes.
on. Do we have to take that one? Singular? We don't. Okay.
No.
Very good. All right, so we have Councilmember Seer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Craddy, thank you very much for your time this morning. Spend an hour with me and answer all of my questions about the budget. Just 3 questions for you tonight. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit about the revenue growth so far. Talk to us about the possible recession that we're going to be facing, or we're in right now, we're facing pretty soon. And also, how do we go about making a policy on, especially on the capital fund balance, that would make sure that we're never in the red, basically. And you and I are both fans of not having any of these funds being in the red anyway. But especially when we have a policy, the only policy in my knowledge we have is for the emergency fund. I'd love to be able to talk about a policy on the capital fund balance. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. I'll take those kind of one by one. So the first one is, if you look at our general fund revenue growth through the month of May, we're looking at a little bit over $11 million in year-over-year revenue growth. That is driven heavily by 3 main sources. That is sales tax numbers, income tax numbers, and as well as personal property replacement tax. And so those are what has been driving the revenue growth for the city. What I will say leading into point number 2 is, I think, as everyone is acutely aware, we are in a position of high inflation, and there is growing sentiment out there that at some point next year, more than likely, we will be facing a recession. And so while the net revenue growth has been strong, I think we need to obviously keep the lens of that pending recession when we're looking at our spending plan for 2023, which I know we're going to talk about as well this evening. And so we got to kind of keep that in mind as we're looking at how we want to use some of these revenues, which frankly in some of the areas like PPRT, this is record numbers that we haven't seen in a lot of years. And a lot of those numbers can quickly go back down to what they traditionally have been with limited to no notice. And so we have to be cognizant and conservative with what we're estimating for 2023. In terms of the last item, we are heavily focused on our fund balance target of 25% for our general fund. As you see in the report, we're currently at 24% through the end of May. If these numbers continue to go this route, more than likely we will reach our 25% fund balance target. City Council sets our reserve requirements for each of our funds through our fund balance policy. And that is actually something I plan on reviewing all of our financial policies to bring back to City Council in the next few months. And now the capital fund traditionally has had a zero. It's just a requirement that it's not in the negative. And that is normally the standard from the Government Finance Officers Association and most organizations that I've worked for, is you want to at least keep your capital fund balance at zero and treat it as kind of a pay-go fund. And those are kind of the 3 items. If anyone has any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer those.
Thank you very much for the explanation. Just one question for City Manager. Am I wrong assuming that we're kind of having a late start this year for our discussion on the budget?
No, this is pretty timely with where we are. I think that, When we went through COVID and we dealt with the budgets during COVID, we were talking about it every month. So that was one of the reasons why. Normally, we have started to kick this off in July and then lay out a timeline that works us through the middle of November, which I think is the next agenda item we'll be talking about.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Member Regenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director Craddy. This report, I appreciate it so much, and the layout and the format's just so user-friendly. Looking at the sales tax numbers, off the top of your head, do you remember when we started getting the online sales tax? Was that a year ago or a year and a half ago?
So the first time you would have seen those would have been the April time frame of last year.
Okay.
And so that's when you started to see this relatively robust jump. It's hard to say exactly what is online sales taxes versus just general growth. It doesn't necessarily break it out in the information that I'm given. My rough estimate is more than likely that was around $8 to $10 million into the city of Peoria was through online sales taxes. And that has been a big reason for the jump in sales taxes.
8 to 10 million would be your best guess estimate. So kudos to State Rep Ryan Spain and our other legislative leaders for making that happen. So I don't think we should take that number for granted. But all in all, very, very good information. And Councilman Sear, maybe we'll have to compare notes on the expectations for a recession next year. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Graham?
Well, you're going to have 2 quarters where you have the GNP declining. I don't think we've seen the first quarter yet, and I am ultimately optimistic, and please, let's not count our disasters too early. However, I must ask a question, Director Craddy. With the $500 million more being applied toward pensions than was required by law occurring because of some of the windfalls we've had down in Springfield, do you see that having any short-term or long-term impact on the difficulty we have every year as it relates to budgets and covering what we need to?
Yeah, so at your August meeting, I will be bringing you our 2021 audit, which will also include the estimates from the actuaries for where our pension funding sits. I am happy to report that both of those funds did see a slight decline in the unfunded liability. And when I say slight, we are talking about an $8 million drop out of $390 million. And so it is hard to know, because of how the reporting works, any earnings or gains that you get is smoothed over a 5-year period, so it does take some time for those to catch up with kind of where your unfunded liability is. But I can also say we're not in the best rate of return market right now, and so we might see the opposite happen next year when we have earnings that are below our required rate of return, so we might see the opposite occur.
Thank you, Comptroller Craddy.
Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to receive and file.
Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Euler?
Aye.
Ruckriegel?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Clerk?
We are at regular business. Item number 22-255, a communication with the request to receive and file the 2023 revised budget timeline.
The manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll actually turn the floor over to Finance Director Craddy.
Okay.
I'm just going to quickly run through some of the high-level important dates with our budget timeline, and then I'll open the floor for any questions that council may have. Tomorrow actually is our kickoff with the staff, so staff will get used to seeing myself over the next few months. Our goal is to get a draft copy to City Council by October the 11th, with the first meeting with City Council to be on October the 18th. The plan would be, just as it has been in past years, that we will meet on a weekly basis to discuss the budget until we have a completed budget. The goal that we have set in the timeline is to have that budget approved by November the 15th, and then the budget as well as the tax levy filed with the county by November the 18th. And that's kind of the timeline as we have it set up right now. Like I said, I'm open to any questions or comments from council.
I'll start out with questions. One is related to the ARPA funding. I think we have still about $23 million to spend in the ARPA funding. So where does that fit into this timeline?
So I think that obviously that would be part of the budget discussions, but I also think, it's like maybe sending this back to the manager would be a discussion with City Council about how they want to proceed with that funding.
Yeah, we can certainly host another policy session with the council as we're preparing the budget, so that we can have a discussion about where we'd like to see those funds allocated, and as we would craft those recommendations. Certainly, we have some of those funds had been identified over a 4-year period, but not all of it, so there is still some of those dollars yet to allocate.
Okay. And my next question is related to the addition of state funding that's being allocated. How does that fit into this schedule as well?
So that's a great question. One, we need to be notified from the state that funds are coming down the pike and that they'll be available for us to spend. Very similar to the federal, for example, the demolition funds for Harrison School. We still need to have the paperwork executed and then come back to you to make a budget amendment to address some of those items. So that's kind of the process that will have to happen, is we'll get notice from whether it's DCEO or the Department of Human Services or the federal government, and then as we accept those funds, we'll have to take a budget amendment to you, it's the council, explaining how those dollars will be spent and in what manner.
Okay. I would really recommend, trying to work with our state legislators to move that along as soon as possible, because some of those funds end next July 30th. So if we're late starting, we could,
yes,
back end be in trouble.
It absolutely can be, and we hope that they've fully staffed their grant departments. I know DCEO is behind for quite a long time in terms of having the staff to be able to get grants out the door.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of clarification, Mr. Manager. I didn't quite understand your answer to Madam Mayor. These funds, the $23.5 million, is that money in the bank yet, our bank yet?
Yes.
Okay. Have we spent all the money yet for the other 23.5?
No.
And I didn't hear your timeline. There is a timeline for that money to be allocated and spent. Can you answer that?
Yeah, the money has to be allocated through 2024 and then spent by the end of 2025.
Okay, so the $10 million we have not spent yet, plus the new money we just received, 23.5, we have until December of 2024 to allocate that money. And 25.
I'm going to look to the finance director to see if it's December, but it is 2025 that we have to have those dollars spent. It may be the federal fiscal year.
It's December 24 to be allocated and 25 to be spent.
Yeah, the actual expenditure date, my guess would be as it would follow the fiscal year of the federal government. Because there's so much variability between individual different governments, and so it would be difficult for the Treasury to track it unless they follow the federal fiscal year.
So, Mr. Craddy, just to make sure some of us that are following the budget, that 25 or $24.5 million that just came, or I'm sorry, $23.5 million just came in, is that show anywhere in your budget yet?
No, we are treating all the money that comes in through these programs as deferred revenue until we actually expend it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Good. You're welcome. And I get a motion to receive and file? Do we already have, okay. Moved by Councilmember Seer, seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any additional discussion? Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Euler?
Aye.
Councilmember Ruckrigo?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Madam Clerk,
We are at unfinished business.
is there any unfinished business? Okay. You can, no unfinished business.
We are at new business.
Is there any new business? Councilmember Riggenbach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There were a couple items on consent that I didn't want to pull because there's no sense in discussing them necessarily, but I did want to just thank my colleagues and the manager. And the Springdale appointments, I think, is a key milestone that we need to note. That represents the new intergovernmental agreement that we approved a couple months ago with the county, Peoria County, as well as the Park District. And that gives the city a clear majority of the authority board members, which is something that, with our unlimited liability, is something that we thought was very important. So I just wanted to, again, point that out, that this just really solidifies the future of Springdale Cemetery and the very unique partnership that we have with Peoria County and Peoria Park District. The other comment I want to make regarding the approval of the North Prospect Road project is something that Councilman Seer and Councilman Allen kind of nudge each other about with the new council maps. The council member who has been lobbying for a project isn't necessarily the one who sees it come to fruition. So I just wanted to remind my friends on North Prospect that this is a project that, as their third district councilman, I was arguing and fighting for on their behalf, and now Councilman Seer will be there for the ribbon cutting when the road is done. So, and then just a final note. Tonight, I stopped at home before I came down, and ironically, my next-door neighbor now has an Airbnb operating, and I introduced myself to these people and confirmed that it was, in fact, an Airbnb. But the reason I point that out is because these folks are here from Maine, and they're here for the professional golf disc tournament. There's over 1,000 people coming from around the country, at least as far as Maine, coming into our community. Unfortunately, all the places they're playing weren't in the city, so I think it would just be worth a phone call from perhaps our economic development team to the Park District to see if there's something that we could do, perhaps with the Tourism Reserve Fund, or I don't know what that would look like, but to have 1,000 participants from around the country coming in and spending time in our community is something we don't want to overlook. So that's all I got. Thank you, Madam.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just two items. Again, I want to give appreciation to the Community Development Department. They're doing a lot of great work, and they recently did award their neighborhood mini grant program recipients. And I want to shout out just 5 neighborhoods in District 4 that were selected for their various projects, and those are Creighton Woods, Williamsburg Townhomes, Willow Knolls Resident Recreation Association, Ottlebrook Subdivision, and then Lyndhurst Homeowners Association as well too. So I'm very excited to see what projects they move forward with. But again, thank you to our Community Development Department for coming up with this initiative to help beautify our neighborhoods and help sponsor some of these programs. And then the second item is for you, Corporation Council Kapushka. I meant to contact you earlier, but if we can revisit the conversation around the social equity designation when it comes to marijuana dispensaries, I feel that's a conversation that's going to be timely here soon. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other new business? Madam Clerk?
We are at citizens' opportunity to address the City Council. I have not received any comment cards.
All righty. We can move on.
We are now at adjournment to exec.
Council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We need to go into closed session under 5 ILCS 120-2C21 to discuss closed session minutes, 2C2 to discuss collective negotiating matters, and 2C1 to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees.
And we will adjourn in closed session without coming back out. Can I get a motion to approve? Moved by Councilmember Allen, seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Euler?
Aye.
Councilmember Ruckriegel?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly, did you, Councilmember Kelly? Okay. Motion passes, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.